Hi guys and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be talking about the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. Now I've done these videos in the past, I think in 2021 and 2022, and I've always enjoyed making these because I feel like it helps me understand the new book releases of this year, and it also helps me understand which books of the past year as well as books on my backlist that I want to get to. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the video. The first book that I want to talk about is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Honestly, the only thing I know about this book is that it is a love story between two characters who are the complete opposite of each other. So I guess it's kind of like an opposites attract kind of story. And that's all I need to know. All I need to know is that it is a love story written by Emily Henry. And because of these two things, I'm probably going to really enjoy this book because I love Emily Henry's writing. I think she writes extremely endearing characters. The banter that she writes in her love stories between the two protagonists, it's just amazing. And so if Emily Henry writes a book, I'm definitely going to read it. The next book that I want to talk about is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Now this book is set during the Spanish Golden Age and it follows our main character Luisa Cotado, who works as a maid in the King's Palace. But Luisa also possesses certain magical abilities, and so when these abilities are discovered by the court, they force her to use these abilities in their war against England. Now, the dark and dangerous things that follow in Luisa's life is basically the premise of this book. The interesting thing about this book is that Leigh Bardugo has said that this book has been inspired by her family's history, which I think is really interesting because I feel like this might be a very personal story then to Leigh Bardugo, and I want to see how that sort of affects the way that she writes this book. Next up, we have Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is the second book in the Emily Wilde series. I read the first book, which is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, last year, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with the world, I fell in love with the characters, and I fell in love with the romance which is at the center of this book. And so I am really excited to see the new sort of like town or village that Emily explores in this book. I'm excited to see the different characters she meets. I'm excited to see the different fairies she encounters and those adventures that she goes on. And I'm also excited to see how the romance kind of evolves and continues in this series because it's just so sweet. So yeah, I'm really excited about this book. I cannot wait for it to release. Next, we have The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I never know how to pronounce his name, honestly. Even when I read The Silent Patient, like, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. But anyway, this book is basically a murder mystery thriller which is set on a Greek island, and the people who have gone to this Greek island are like a movie star and all of her friends. And so they go there to like basically enjoy a vacation, but then I'm guessing one of them ends up murdered. So this kind of seems like a glass onion sort of situation, and it just seems really interesting. I honestly didn't like The Silent Patient so much, but I'm willing to give this author another chance because his books seem to do really well, like on the bestsellers list. I'm also going to be reading The Maidens this year because I'm in a bit of a dark academia kick right now. So yeah, let's see. I'm intrigued by the story. I love a good, like, you know, closed off island murder mystery situation. So yeah, let's see. I'm intrigued. Next up, we have Acts of God by Kanan Gill. I honestly don't know what this book is about at all. The only thing I know is that I really like Kanan Gill's humor. I've watched a few of his stand-up comedy shows. Like, I've been to watch one of his shows live and it was really, really funny. So what I can expect this book to be is something that's absolutely hilarious. I do know that this book is like kind of weird, and I think it has elements of magical realism in it as well, which I'm quite excited to see how Kanan Gill would tackle this and if he can write it well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a really funny book. I'm looking forward to a really twisted and weird book. And given how Kanan has done his past like stand-up comedy shows. I'm pretty sure this book is also going to have a poignant message in it. So yes, let's see what he does with this book. Next up, we have The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Now, this book is, I think, another like closed room murder mystery thing, which is set on the opening day of a luxury resort called the Manor. This seems like, you know, like the typical Agatha Christie and then there were none kind of situation, where basically like everyone is a suspect. Everyone who is attending this like grand opening is a suspect. Everyone who is attending this grand opening has like a backstory and secrets to hide. And I love those kind of books. I love it where everyone is a suspect. You don't know who can be the killer. You don't know who to trust. I love mysteries and thrillers like that. So yeah, excited to give this one a shot. Next, we have Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. A Hamlet retelling told from the perspective of the main villain, who is Lady Macbeth. Just give me this book. I am already sold by that premise. Honestly, Lady Macbeth from Hamlet is such an interesting villain, and what drove her to become this manipulative, greedy woman, I think will be a very, very interesting story. Next up, we have The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Now, I absolutely loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by the same author. I really liked the way that that book was structured, because it, along with like the main narrative, we also got like case files, police interviews, like scribblings from the main character's journal as she's trying to piece all of the clues together. And I loved that aspect of the book. And this book, I believe, will also have a similar structure, because it follows our main character as she's trying to uncover what happened to her missing mother. And she's doing it through, she's like uncovering this mystery as she's filming a true crime documentary. So I think, or at least I hope, that this book will be like the main event along with the interviews which this main character does in her documentary. I love books which are structured in that way. I feel like it just makes them very interesting to read. So if this book is like that, I think I'm really going to enjoy it. The next two books are, hold on, I have to read them. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches and A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. Wow, those titles are really long. Again, I don't know much about these books. The only thing I do know about the first one, which was released last year, I believe, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, is that it is a story of found family. And it's supposed to be really cozy, really heartwarming, and very similar to The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. These two books have been compared like to how cozy and warm and like fuzzy they feel. And honestly, that's all I need to know. Like, I loved The House in the Cerulean Sea. It was the most, like one of the most heartwarming books that I've read. I've said this before. It was like a Pixar film in the form of a book. Like, I think one of my subscribers said that, and I absolutely agree. And so if these two books are anything like that, then yeah, I think they'll be really fun reads. So I can't wait to dive in. Next up, we have Slow Dance by Rainbow Rowell. I've honestly not read a Rainbow Rowell book in so long. The last one that I read was Landline, and that was years ago. But I remember really liking Rainbow Rowell's writing, so I can't wait to like dive back into one of her books. This book is about star-crossed lovers, and these two main characters are like best friends when they are younger, and everyone thinks that they are going to get married. I believe that they don't end up getting married. And this story follows their lives and how, I guess, they make their way back into each other's lives. So I just know that Rainbow Rowell's writing is really sweet, and she builds very real characters, and so I can't wait to dive in. Next up, we have The Fast and the Dead by Anuja Chauhan. Now, this is another Anuja Chauhan murder mystery book which follows Club You to Death. I think the same inspector that investigated that mystery is the same one investigating this one. And what you can expect from an Anuja Chauhan book is something like a really fun mystery with very quirky characters. Her writing is full of Indianisms. It is an English book with a lot of Hindi like interspersed in the writing, and it also has a lot of colloquialisms which make the book super duper relatable for Indians. And so that's what I'm expecting from this book, a really easy breezy light fun murder mystery. So yeah, excited to read another Anuja Chauhan book. Next, we have Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. I cannot believe I still haven't read this book. It's been a few months since it's been released, but I haven't gotten around to reading it. This book is the 5th book in the Heartstopper series installment, which was one of my absolute favorite series I read in 2022. It follows two main characters, Nick and Charlie, and it's basically their love story. And along with it, we get to meet all of their different friends who are also really sweet and such a good like group of characters. So yeah, I cannot wait to see what is in store for Nick and Charlie, how their story evolves, what's happening to all of their friends, and also like just the teenage issues that Alice Oseman wants to dive into with this new installment in the series. So very excited for this. I cannot wait to read Heartstopper Volume 5. Next up, we have Sakina's Kiss by Vivek Shanbag, the same author who wrote Khachar Khochar, which is one of my favorite books. This book is a thriller, and it follows our main character Venkat as he gets intertwined in like the underworld of the city that he lives in. And so it's like he gets involved with a lot of like crimes and gangs and all of that. All I know is that Khachar Khochar had a mind-blowing twist at the end, which I did not see coming. And it also was written in a very, very relatable way. So if Khachar Khochar, which wasn't exactly a thriller, could be turned into something which had such a massive plot twist, Vivek Shanbag actually writing a thriller might be something that is very, very intriguing. So very excited to pick this one up. Again, I'm pretty sure it's gonna have maybe a mind-blowing twist at the end. So yeah, let's see what happens. Next up, we have Everything the Light Touches by Janice Pariyad. This book is supposed to explore different themes like urban versus rural life in India. It's supposed to explore modern versus colonial India, and it's also supposed to explore capitalism versus tradition within like India basically. And it talks about these themes through 4 characters, like extremely disparate characters, I guess, who are visiting different parts of the country. Now, that's all I know about this book. It just sounds very, very interesting, and exploring themes about India, about our country, is something that I love reading in books. I love to see like different perspectives of India through different characters. And if it explores that, I'm already really intrigued to read this book. Also, I'm looking for new Indian authors to explore, and I'm trying to find like good Indian authors, read them so that I can recommend them to you guys. So yeah, quite excited to dig into this book. Next up, we have The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. I honestly don't know a lot about this book except that it is a family drama and kind of talks about how the butterfly effect affects them, I think. I saw a Jack Edwards video about this book, honestly, and the 2 things that he said was that it was shortlisted for the Booker, and secondly, the audiobook of this book is amazing. I love audiobooks, and so if someone says that an audiobook is like really well produced, then I'm definitely going to check it out. Speaking of audiobooks, the next one is Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. This audiobook is narrated by Meryl Streep. And that's all I know about this book. That's literally all I know about this book. All I know is that Meryl Streep is a very intelligent and emotional actress. And so if she has lent her voice to this book, I'm pretty sure the book is going to be intelligently written with good characters. And I cannot wait to see how she brings these characters and the narrative to life. I absolutely love Meryl Streep. So yeah, excited to listen to the audiobook of this one. Next, we have Wayward by Amelia Hart. This book follows 3 women in like completely different eras. One in 2019 who has run away from her husband, like I think a bad marriage. One in 1619 who has been accused of being a witch, and one in 1942 as she's dealing with World War II. And basically, I think it talks about how the lives of these women are interconnected and somehow related to the Wayward cottage or something like that. Basically, I love books which have these like different POVs from different eras in time, especially women-driven stories. I believe that this one was the winner of the Goodreads Book Awards in the historical fiction section. So yeah, quite excited to read this one. Next up, we have The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is the last book in the Poppy War series, and I have been wanting to finish this series for so long. Like, I really need to get to it, and this year has to be the year that I finally finish this series. I loved this series so much. I feel like it has such a raw, such a brutal, like heart-wrenching and like honest depiction of war, like the brutalities of war. And it's like, while it's a fantasy book, because these depictions are so raw and the characters are so well written, this book just feels real, even though it is a fantasy book. And R.F. Kuang is just like an amazing author. I think it's because of the size of the book. The size of the book is like really intimidating, and also I've forgotten a few aspects of the first two books, so I feel like for me to finish the series, I have to reread the entire series, and that's what is stopping me from finishing the series. So I have to put my mind to it and finally finish reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Next, we have The Will of Many by James Islington. Now, this is a fantasy book where our main character enrolls himself into, I'm guessing, a military school. Now, the government of this fantastical land believes that this person has enrolled into the school to learn and eventually serve the government. But what the main character actually wants to do is uncover certain secrets, solve a murder mystery, and eventually take the government down. Now, this has every aspect of a fantasy book that I absolutely love. A good like school setting, a rebellion against a corrupt government, and possibly some magic. So yeah, it's every aspect of a fantasy book that I absolutely love. So can't wait to dive in. The next one is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. Right? Yes, Gareth Brown. This book follows two girls as they discover this Book of Doors, which basically acts like a guide that helps them travel to any place in the world that they want to go to, or to like maybe even other worlds and other fantastical lands. And so as these two girls, they go out on this adventure, they realize that there are other more dangerous people who also want this book. And so they start pursuing these girls in trying to get this like powerful book from them. What this feels like is a very fun fantasy thriller chase kind of book, and I love books like that. I love books if they are fast paced and they are thrilling and also set in a fantastical world. So yeah, excited to read this one as well. Next, we have The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This book follows two main characters and is set during the time of World War I. So, and they are like a brother-sister duo. So Laura, who is a nurse, I think, basically gets news that her brother Freddie has died in battle during World War I. But she just feels like something doesn't add up. Like she feels like some part of the story is missing. And so she heads over to Europe to investigate what has happened. And she discovers that there were some things which were mysterious, spooky, and sinister going on that her brother Freddie might have gotten up in. And so what this feels like is a fantasy story that is quite like atmospheric, spooky, and with a historical fiction element to it. Also, I believe Catherine Arden is the same one who's written the Bear and the Nightingale series, which is supposed to be super duper atmospheric. And so if this book is also like that, something that's very atmospheric, spooky, historical fiction, then I think I'm gonna love it because I love all of those things. Next up, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I read one line about this book. Let me read it out for you guys. It's hard to find a husband in Regency England when you're a young lady with only half a soul. Honestly, this feels like a combination of Bridgerton and fantasy, like Regency romance and like a spooky fantasy tale, and I'm here for it. Like, honestly, I love fantasy. Can you guys tell that I absolutely love fantasy books? So anything, any other genre, whether it's Regency romance, historical fiction, with some kind of like contemporary fiction mixed with fantasy and magical realism, I'm going to read that book. And so I'm quite excited to dive into this one as well. And the last book that I want to talk about is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. Now, this book follows two characters again. Kell, who is kind of like the bodyguard or body double for the prince of a fantastical kingdom, and Lynn, who is part of a small community that possesses magical abilities. Now, Kell and Lynn's lives kind of intertwine, and they are led to meet the king of the criminal underworld of this fantastical kingdom, and basically the dangerous adventures that they go on, I think, is what this story is about. This honestly sounds very Six of Crows-esque, like the whole criminal underworld and people getting intertwined in that. Yeah, it sounds very Six of Crows-esque. Also, I've read The Infernal Devices written by Cassandra Clare, and I really liked that book. The romance in that book was amazing, so I'm guessing there might be some romance in this as well. So yeah, excited to read a Cassandra Clare book that is not anything to do with shadow hunters. So yeah, quite excited to read this one as well. So yeah, that was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys found some interesting books that you guys can check out in 2024. If you did, give this video a big fat thumbs up. Let me know the books that you are most excited to read this year. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more book related videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.